Hello, 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 and welcome to 52 Weeks of Flow, the podcast that delves into the depth of human potential and the transformative power of flow. On this show, we talk about peak performance, flow, energy, and bridge the gap between science and woo-woo. Through authentic stories and real-life examples, my guests and I will help you dive into your superpowers and create your next level of success. My name is Bea-Marie Aning, neuroscience geek, flow enthusiast, and your guide to rewilding yourself. I'm on a mission to raise the frequency of the planet by supporting you to untame yourself and step into your flow. All right, everybody, here we go with another amazing episode of 52 Weeks of Flow. And I am so freaking excited for this conversation that I am about to have with the amazing Lisa Parker, because her zone of genius lies in understanding the profound connection between the body and the mind and how to use sacred plant medicine ethically and safely to facilitate deep healing. She is the genius, the creatrix behind the Trilome Method. And I cannot wait for her to explain to you what this is all about, because it already blew my mind the 5 minutes that we chatted before this. So welcome to the stage, Lisa.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I am so happy to have you. So please tell our audience a little bit more about you and how you came about the Trilome Method.
So my history, I have a long history of trauma and challenges and some violent acts. And I was just born into this world with a very sensitive nervous system. And of course, all of that was compounding on my physical body, and I was having a lot of physical pain. And when I finally found bodywork, everything's starting to make sense, because I started to learn about the body-mind connection and how life experiences can affect the physical body. And so, suddenly my life experiences of what my body was going through, just made a lot of sense. And, of course, at the same time, I was introduced into psychedelic medicine. So I was doing a lot of my emotional and spiritual healing with these sacred plants. And it was so interesting to see the correlation of what I was experiencing through the healing of the psychedelics and what my physical body was going through and processing at the same time. And so it seemed like a very natural thing for me that I need to continue with the plant medicines and I need to continue with the body work in order for my whole being to come into healing. And so it's I look back on it now with such love and adoration for those traumatic moments, because they were my greatest teachers. They really forced me to learn how to heal my physical body, how to heal my emotions, how to heal my energetic nervous system, how to heal my intellectual body, which is how I process information and process experiences and my belief systems. And then I also had to heal my spiritual body. So my idea of who I was and what my worth was. And because I had to go through and figure out how to learn the healing methods to all of those aspects to my existence, that really made it such a perfect kind of stage or platform to create something like Trilome, which is psychedelic integrative bodywork. So incorporating a little bit of psychedelics with a bodywork experience all within one session, to go in and touch in all of those 5 aspects all at the same time.
Ooh, that sounds so interesting. It really sounds so interesting. I am just, when you were talking, I thought, wow, okay. I always thought, healing comes from within, not taking stuff to bring more out. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it. I'm not a big fan of taking medicine to heal something. I feel like my body can do the job by itself.
Sure.
So thinking about, I know that plant medicine is something completely different to our manufactured medicine that we have in, our world today.
Mhm.
So can you please explain how that works?
I love that question. No one has actually asked me that before. But that's such a beautiful question, because a lot of people have that aversion to, taking a substance. The difference with the psychedelic medicines, and the reason why we call them medicines, is because they don't actually do the healing. And that's a huge misconception. A lot of people think if I go and have a plant medicine ceremony, it will heal my circumstance. But what actually happens is that those plant medicines open your eyes to see what you need to see, to identify, and to give you tools and resources so you go and make those changes in your life. Because let's say, I'm having a challenge in my relationship, and I want to work with ayahuasca to heal my relationship. If it does, and I go back, my relationship is perfect, what's going to prevent me from going right back into the patterns that got it into that challenging place to begin with? So it's not the external healing that happens, it's the ability to see and learn and identify, the things that we just assume. So, for example, we go through life, especially in our younger years, and we learn a lot of information that we filter, or we identify as a truth. I'm supposed to behave in this way. This is appropriate. That is not appropriate. That's okay. My body is supposed to look a certain way. Success is this. My duty is solely to my family. Whatever it may be, those of us that have been bullied in our younger years, it's not okay to be myself. I'm not safe if I'm authentic. And we learn these as a truth. So in our frontal lobe logic, we start to filter information through the things that we just have determined are true. But how much of that is actually based in truth? It's not actually based in truth. So what is the truth? Like, what is our value? What is our purpose? And who are we? Separate and apart from stories and projections of what we've been told and expectations from other people outside of ourselves. And so many people, again, it's an assumption, and it's something that we just filter information through. We're not doing it cognitively or on purpose. Like, I don't filter, my life experiences cognitively saying, is this information based our truth or not? It just happens. So these plant medicines, the beautiful way that they work on the mind is they take that control center and they soften it a little bit. So now you're filtering information through a different perspective. And that different perspective is just in alignment with your higher self and your soul. So it's not an external thing that's coming in and healing. It's just allowing you the opportunity so you can see that truth yourself.
That makes so much sense. That makes so much sense. And then my follow-up question to this is, a lot of people are probably afraid to take something that will take them outside of their comfort zone, or, over the edge of something. Like, what do you tell them when they say, oh no, then I'm going to, have bad trips, or I'm going to have this, or I'm going to experience this, or this is,
Set and setting, and know who you are sitting with. Because by nature of working with these medicines, you are asking for those protective patterns and the control systems to soften, so you can go in and really tend to those really tender places in your soul and in your spirit that need tending to and healing. And that cannot happen if you do not feel safe. So there's a difference between recreational use and therapeutic use. And the difference around the therapeutic use is that typically you're sitting with someone who is holding space, and they're holding that container for you. Recreational, typically there's no one holding that space. There's no one keeping you safe. Everyone's just, enjoying themselves, or you're by yourself. And there is something called neuroception that's it was introduced in the polyvagal theory by Stephen Burgess, that there's a part of your nervous system that is always consciously aware of threats or danger to your system. So it's not a conscious, it's just that spidey sense. That's something that is just always active to keeping you safe. If you're in recreational use and it's only up to you to keep you safe, and there's other people around and people are taking substances, or maybe the music isn't right, or the neighbors are arguing, or you're out in public, there's always going to be a part of you that, is kind of holding on to reality, to keep you safe. In the therapeutic sense, you have someone that is in charge of doing that for you. So for me specifically, it is my job to keep you physically and emotionally and spiritually, energetically safe. Like, I hold your grounding so you don't have to maintain that. You can go do the work that you're meant to do. Now, there are circumstances and people that go do group experiences where the facilitator hasn't done the due diligence. So they haven't taken your medical history. They haven't determined if you're correct or if you're safe to work with the medicines or not. And most often that integration piece is missing. And so people go and they have this crazy experience, and then they're thrown back into the world and they're left kind of spinning, going, how do I make sense of what just happened? So this conversation around, I've had bad experiences. Am I safe? Am I not? I love having this conversation with my clients, because I go, listen, this is not a recreational. It is my job to hold you safe. And I stay completely sober. I don't microdose. I take nothing. Like, I am fully on this earth. And I know these medicines really well. And I have a lot of tools to keep you safe. If something challenging were to come up, it's one of two things. It's either a real life experience or it's not. So it's a real life memory or it's a hallucination. You're falling off the cliff. You're getting chased by a lion. There's real, images or colors. If it's a real life experience, what I tell people is you have two things going for you. The nature of these medicines is for healing. Is to show you what it is that you need to see. It is not to torment you for no reason. And you have your psyche, which is designed to keep you functional and safe, which is why we can disassociate and why we can suppress. Because if there's any part of our experience that your psyche deems unsafe, you can hide those away or tuck them away until you can. So naturally, nothing is going to come through that you're not ready for. And if it's a life experience, it's because the medicine in your psyche is saying you now have the tools to look at this from a different perspective. What is the truth around what happened? And where's the healing that's being presented to you? So in that way, there's a very easy way for me to gently take people out of the, phonetic, this is uncomfortable life memory, I don't want to deal with it, to go, no, but what's the truth? Because you're obviously safe because you're here and now. So, what is the medicine, offering to you? If it's not a life memory, hallucination, colors, images, our psyche processes in pictures. And so if we are processing suppressed emotion, then your brain will create a scenario to make that emotion make sense. So if you're angry and you're processing anger, there's going to be a scenario that's going to make you angry. If there's fear, then yes, you're hanging over the cliff and your body's processing fear. So in those moments, it's not about the story that you're experiencing, but what's the emotion that you're feeling? And where does that present in your life? And what is that emotion calling your attention to? So I boldly tell people, at least I can't speak for other facilitators or experiences, but in the space that I hold, it is not possible for you to have a bad trip. Wow. Because there's ways to work with what you're experiencing, depending on what you're experiencing, to get down to the root core around what's happening. And very easily you're able to, take away from that phonetic emotion to being able to really see the core issue and go into your deep healing process.
Ooh. I love this. I love this so much. So let's dive more in there. You said you stay completely sober, like you're not microdosing. The term microdosing comes up everywhere at the moment, like microdosing with LSD, microdosing with mushrooms, microdosing with blah, 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 blah. It's popping up everywhere.
Yes.
Can we talk about this?
Yeah, microdosing. Yeah, that's by definition, microdosing should be subperceptual. So you shouldn't feel anything in the moment. Because people will say, I microdosed, but I didn't feel anything, And I go, well, good, then you're doing it right. You're not supposed to feel high, or you're not supposed to feel any of the effects. What happens though is that, these substances, these chemical activations start to activate the brain. And so it activates the neurotransmitters, and creating all of the pathways and the ways that your brain talks and connects to each other. So even in small doses, it activates the brain without even causing you to alter your consciousness. So the ways that people will experience the benefits will because they have greater access to the brain activity than maybe they had before, because of stress or trauma or substance abuse or food or diet, lack of exercise, you name it, just being a human right now in this world. So when you have kind of when your brain is just operating on a higher level, suddenly, the triggers and the edges aren't so sharp. You have more capacity to sit there and breathe and take a breath and then respond instead of just react. Your highs aren't so high, your lows aren't so low. You just have more of an emotional capacity. And so typically people will notice the effects of microdosing on the days they don't take it. They notice how they feel differently than on the days that they do take it. And that's really the only true rule to microdosing is don't take it every day, because your brain will start to acclimate to the activation. And so, like going to the gym, if you pick up the same weight and do the same exercise over and over again, it's helpful, but you're not going to see the same benefits as if you mix it up a little bit. And so, just not taking it consistently. Now, it's interesting because all of these substances, all of these plants and these molecular compounds work on the brain in a different way. So psilocybin works differently than LSD. LSD has this way of activating the artistic, creative mind. Psilocybin is more on the emotional support, processing your information. And so I have found with some of my clients that are writers or artists or activists and those that want to activate their creative mind, microdosing LSD is very good for that. They just go into their creative mode. And again, they're not high. It's just that part of their brain has more support. And that's one of the fascinating things that I love about all of these plants and all of these compounds, because they all have a different purpose and they all have a specific way of interacting with your brain chemistry and your brain function. So there are particular reasons why you would take one substance over the other. And that's also why microdosing would work differently with one person or another.
Wonderful. Wow. This is so cool. I love this conversation so much. So
you do.
Yes. So I'm a very artistic brain. I have a very artistic brain. So, but I also have kids. I also have 2 kids. And I know one of my beautiful friends, she has 4 kids and she microdoses with mushrooms. And she's like, since I do that, I am so more calm with my kids. I am more balanced. I can keep the harmony in the household. I don't explode anymore. So when we microdose, can we do different substances or different compounds, like not mix it in one, but cherry pick kind of what we need that day? Or how does that work?
Yeah, sure. So microdosing, our scientific studies are really just beginning. We don't have the long-term scientific studies to really understand, the benefits of all of this just quite yet for me to scientifically say that. But I would say from a productive standpoint, if you know the substance that you're working with and the intention around it, they all work well together. Now, on a microdosing level, which is also why people that are on medications, it's not so much of a contraindication. A lot of people are coming off of their antidepressants and SSRIs, whereas normally with the medications that they're taking, they would be inappropriate for a bigger macro dose until they weaned off of that, just because you're working on the same receptors in the brain. And that can obviously be be pretty dangerous. You definitely want to be careful of that. So I would look at the different, like which ones you want to microdose, what part of the brain are they working on, and kind of do some of the due diligence around that. But otherwise, yeah, with intention and with integrity and with the right purpose, absolutely. There's actually a lot of invention right now around these sacred plants. People are starting to combine molecules and to stack medicine protocols. So there are some protocols that I'm aware of where they will start with an pathogen like an MDMA and then follow it with a psilocybin experience. There's reasons behind that, but for the most part, they work really well together, and that would certainly be an option. It's a great exploration. I mean, try and see. With microdosing, it's experiential. Try it, see how you feel. Because it's small doses. In small doses, it's pretty safe. I mean, you still have to be careful, but macro doses, yes, there's more safety around it. But microdosing is very different.
Ooh. All right. There's so much to explore. I mean, on this podcast, we talk about so many different things. We talk about like really straight up neuroscience, but we also talk about energy flow. We talk about business, and this is opening up a whole new door. So if all of you who are watching this on YouTube right now, please be aware. I have a thunderstorm going up like on my house at the moment. Like it's like right above me. So if you have, it looks like a power outage maybe, or the video is frozen. We're still here. We're still going. It's still wonderful. So because the audio is perfect, you can listen to us, yes, perfectly, just as a little heads up. So, but let's dive right back into microdosing and into plant medicine.
Yeah.
You said that we can stack compounds, or that there are not, long-term scientific studies. If I am a person who is genuinely interested, but also afraid to step out of that, step out of my comfort zone to experience, or, to get the hints to heal myself. How do you support me in a session?
I recognize that there's a part of you that is hesitant and unsure. And, that is there for a reason, because there's some part of you, or there's some part of the client that isn't quite sure of the safety, or if it's relevant, or if it's right. And so instead of just bulldozing you to say, hey, you're safe, if you sit with it and go, what part of you doesn't feel safe? What are you unsure about? And let's have a conversation. So giving your nervous system predictability. Here's what's happening. Here's how it works. Here's how I'm going to support you. What part of you doesn't feel safe? What part of you still has a question? And then typically by the time we get to the end of those questions, there's a pretty clear knowing within the client about whether they want to do it or not. Because let me be really clear and kind of caveat, working with psychedelics is one option. It is not the option. And it's not right for everybody, but it's one option that's out there if it truly does align with where you are in your life. And we all have an internal knowing. And I never tell clients, this is what you should do. I always wait for them to get to that space on their own, because it's really important that you are aligned with that decision, and that it's not something that you're talked into. But the feeling unsafe, sure, because there's a lot of confusion. There's people that have good experiences, people that have bad experiences, so having the conversations around, if I have a bad experience, what does that look like? So going into that conversation we just had, here's how I see it. And recognizing that you probably have had experiences before where, it was rough, or places of vulnerability. There's a part of you that goes, can I be vulnerable in this moment? And is this the right time and setting and person for me to be vulnerable with? those are incredibly important decisions that I leave up to the client, or that I would have with you, but that would be the line of questioning that I would use as support. And some people get to the line of questioning and go, yeah, not for me, or not right now. And I fully respect that. And there are times when people say, this is what I want to do, but I don't know if you're the right practitioner. And that's totally fine too. I'm not for everyone. It would be overwhelming, for all of us to claim that we can fit everyone. There are different practitioners that have different styles and protocols in place, that work for some people. And some people want more of the aggressive masculine. Some people want more of the feminine nurturing. It just kind of depends what you're looking for. But I think honoring the emotion and where it's stemming from is really the best place to kind of get past that uncertainty.
So if I would live around the area where you are, I would definitely come by, because I love the way you talk. I love the way you explain things. Like, my nervous system is going, yes, okay, let's do this. Woohoo.
Yeah, nervous systems. I mean, I come from a very sensitive nervous system. I started disassociating when I was 7. And so I understand nervous systems very well, which is why I love these conversations. I'm like, let's talk about it.
Yes, let's talk about it more, because the method that you created, tell me about Trilome. Tell me about it. Like, what is it exactly?
So it is a 5-hour session where I serve a small amount of psychedelics. So it's more than a microdose, because I want you to feel it. I want that spirit and energetical opening, without being so much that you disassociate and go play with, other realms. So I want you to feel it, but I want you to stay present with what's in your body. And we go through this process where let me just also say, everyone stays completely dressed. And I often work over a blanket. But, our bodies hold a history of our lifetime, of our traumas, our accidents, our stresses, our challenges, our belief patterns. And we hold energy for other people. We hold the epigenetics. Like, I'm so fascinated with that study, because I think it's so incredible. But our body holds all of that. And most people don't understand, when they have chronic pain, that it's stemming from someplace deeper. So, for example, when I was doing my research, I came across a study from the National Center for PTSD here in the United States. And they found that 15 to 35% of people with chronic pain have PTSD. And most people don't understand, or they never had considered, the correlation between their PTSD and their chronic pain. And I can attest to that, because early on in my career, I was working with people, and some people would have great results and they'd leave and their pain would never come back. And some people with chronic pain would come in, they would feel better, but then they would leave and the pain would come right back. And I was starting to get frustrated, thinking, oh, well, I have to work harder with this client, that I'm not doing enough. So I'll do longer sessions and I'll add more modalities. I'll have to do Reiki and cranial sacral and, refer them to an acupuncturist. Like, I have to work harder to do it. But when I found that study, and then just through my life history and understanding of my education, I go, oh my goodness, people with chronic pain, I'm trying to address it on a physical level when it's stemming from someplace deeper. And that's where the combination of the psychedelics come in. So people with chronic pain or with trauma or challenging life experiences, our mind-body connection is so magnificent that the body has agreed to hold on to the things that we can't process in the moment. But again, everything's automatic and it's assumed. Like, we're not consciously aware of that connection until we go into the psychedelic space where that frontal lobe softens and those automatic filters soften. We start to run information through a different perspective. And so people will go in and they'll go in and they'll work with the medicine. Okay, what is here? How did it get there? What does it need for resolution and healing? And then as they start to do that, I can feel their tissue start to soften, and then I can support it with the tissue work to really, truly bring that balance between the physical and the emotional and the energetic and intellectual and spiritual all at the same time. So it's what I have seen something like this do is so magnificent. And a lot of it is PTSD. People come in with chronic pain, they do a Trilome session and they realize, oh, this is the PTSD from the, from that experience, or this is PTSD from that experience. So to help people being able to process, and they've been in therapy for 40 years. Most people have, they've been doing psychedelic journeys, they've been in psychotherapy, and they've never been able to make that correlation all in the same time, around what's happening. So, and it took me a few years to figure out how to do this, because if you can imagine, touching someone when they are altered is very sensitive, especially if they have physical boundary crossings, and especially if that happened when substances were involved. So being able to create a space where people feel safe to go in and do their work with physical touch, it took me a while, but I can confidently say that I've come up with a method that is safe and provides really profound opportunities for people to go in and really bring balance within their whole body.
Wow. Ooh, this sounds like amazing work that you're doing. And you are in LA. Mm-hmm. I assume that this kind of work you can only do in a physical space. Like, you cannot do this online, right?
Indeed. Indeed. Yeah, because the hands-on approach is really a huge aspect to it. It's what makes it different from just a therapeutic session or a psychedelic session. You need the component of the hands-on touch. I originally thought that this was just this cool thing that I can do in Los Angeles because the people here will recognize that and accept it. But it quickly became obvious that this was beyond me. And so I created a training program, actually, so I can teach other people how to do this method, because I believe in it so deeply and I have seen it work that I need to get this out into the world. And it's interesting because this isn't a known method. And so how do you start to talk about it? Then, of course, with all of the sensitivities around the regulations and the laws with psychedelics, it's an interesting challenge ahead of me, but it is my life's work and it is my passion, and I cannot imagine doing anything else.
Ooh, and anyone listening right now and wants to learn more, we're going to drop a link in the show description so you can find Lisa and how to work with her, or as a patient, or how to get trained in the Trilome Method. Yeah. So besides dropping the link, where can they find you? I love it when my guests tell the audience where to go exactly.
I am surrendering into the knowing that I need to embrace social media. It is not, well, I don't need to go into that. I'm just starting. So Trilome Academy, Trilome Academy on Instagram. My personal Instagram account is LSPRKR. So it's my name without the vowels. And I'm just getting Facebook started and other things. And so be patient with me as I get those started. But aside from the websites, which we'll put the links to, those would be the social media accounts as I embrace this new virtual world.
Yes. Because through this beautiful virtual world, we get connected.
Sure.
We get connected through two people from all over the world. And oh God, this conversation was so amazing, Lisa. Thank you so much for bringing all your knowledge and wisdom and your heart to this.
It is how I healed, and I had to figure it out on my own. And if there's any way that I can support other people so they can do it faster. And honestly, we are in a world right now where we don't have time to see multiple practitioners over multiple years. Our world is really challenging, with countries and religions and cultures all fighting, politics. We don't need to go into all of that, but it's challenging being a human right now in our world. And to imagine, you have to go see a therapist, then you have to go do a mushroom journey, then you have to microdose, then go do body work. It's just, it's a little overwhelming. And so being able to bring this opportunity to people. So as a conscious collective, we can reach our healing faster. How could I do anything else?
Ah, yes. How can I do anything else? So I'm going to ask you my final question for today. And that is, if you have like one last golden nugget for our audience, what would that be?
I probably, one of the most important questions that I get is, can I heal? And I tell everybody, healing is always possible. You never just have to surrender or put up with it or resign. Don't listen to the people that tell you there's no hope. Healing is always possible. We just have to find the right way of support, but it's always possible.
I love to end the show on a really, really high note, and this really is it. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. What a privilege to join you on the show. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
And that's it. That's it for today. That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to Lisa and I talk about psychedelics and microdosing and healing on a physical, emotional, and energetic level. And if you loved what you heard, then please come back and rate and review the show. Give us 5 stars, and I'm going to give you a virtual high five right now. And be sure that I will read every email, every comment of you, because this is what fuels the show. Your comments, your interaction, your questions, everything of that makes me bring on amazing people like Lisa to blow your mind, to expand your horizon, and to help you grow. So until next time, keep shining, keep learning, keep growing, and keep flowing.